Grace to you, peace from God our Father, from our Lord and Savior, Jesus Christ. Amen. Here again from the Gospel just read, where Jesus says, "What then will the owner of the vineyard do to them? He will come and destroy those tenants and give the vineyard to others." When they heard this, they said, "Surely not." Jesus is getting closer to his, he's heading towards Jerusalem, and teaching and preaching along the way. And when he gets to Jerusalem this time, it's going to be his final trip there. It'll be the cross and Calvary. There's the attacks are heating up. The lawyers, the religious lawyers, the scribes, the religious leaders, the Pharisees, the good religious people of his day are looking for ways to entrap, to get him, eliminate him, and they're going to be successful a short time later. And Jesus shares this story, the parable of the vineyard. And it was pretty obvious what he's talking about in Old Testament times, that God had sent these messengers to call the people to give God what was his due, and they mistreated them. Most of the prophets were killed. Jeremiah was thrown down an outhouse hole up to his armpits. Isaiah stuffed inside of a log and sawn in half in front of the temple. People didn't like what they heard. Didn't want to give God what was his due. And so you killed the messengers. So finally God sends his only son to ask for his share and to give him his due. And what do they do to him? They kill him. Israel's often described as a vineyard throughout the Old Testament. And so this story was pretty obvious. The religious folks of Jesus' day who knew the scriptures very well knew exactly what he was talking about. He was talking about them. Remember, growing up, we had this guy who was going to buy our place. We were gone for the summer, and he was a con man. He said he had money to put down, but he didn't have it yet. The check should be arriving any day, but he wanted to move in. And so the realtor said, "Well, can he move in? The check's coming any day now." And, well, okay. And weeks go by, and the guy has another good story. Well, it was delayed, or it got sent to the wrong address, and the money's coming, and in the weeks drag into a month and a couple months, and finally the realtor's telling Dad, "I think this guy's up to no good." We still haven't seen a penny from him. And he was selling. We had a big insulation pile that was gone. Other stuff he was selling and giving away and to family. And my dad went out there to visit, and we were alone, and he was going to find out what was going on. And he asked the guy, he says, "It doesn't seem right. You said you'd have the money, and this is months ago, and I don't think you're being totally honest with me." The guy realized that Dad was on to him at that point, and he pulled out his .357 and aimed it at Dad. He says, "Get off my property." Here's this knucklehead who's trying to squatting basically on our homestead, and he's chasing Dad off with the .357. And Dad was not about ready to leave, and Dad, I remember his neck started turning red, and the red started down here, and then up, and his whole face turned red. My dad's a pretty laid back and calm guy, but he got pretty upset, and he wasn't about ready to leave. So the guy gets on his bag phone, this old precursor to the cell phone, and it has a speaker on it, and he's calling the state troopers, and he says, "I want to report a trespasser. I want troopers here." And then we were standing right there, and the trooper says, "Anybody been shot yet?" And no, not yet. somebody's shot, we're not coming. That's a long ways out, 60 miles out of town, until some crime has been anyway. And there was a neighbor of ours that was with Dad, and he says, Joe, this really isn't worth getting shot over. Maybe let's leave and get the law involved in this. And we hear the audacity of this knucklehead, and who he'd been doing this for a long time and wound up doing time in jail for his shenanigans. And he got what was coming to him. But everything he did was above board and legal. I mean, he had written and or verbal permission from Dad that he could move in. And Dad actually had to give him a 60-day notice or something like that before he leave, even though he'd never paid a penny. And everything was legal, but not right. But here, when we read the Bible, we often think, well, these knuckleheads. How could somebody do that? Promise to rent a vineyard from somebody and then not pay him a portion of the crop. And those Jews that just didn't get it, didn't they repent and give God what was his due? And we often in the process overlook ourselves. That's the temptation in Scripture, is to look at these other people who should be listening to this and forget about ourselves. There's people today who reject God's word. The attacks on Scripture. Well, this is what I feel God's word says to me. Or these would-be professors and theologians who say, well, that was then and this is now, and turning the Bible into nothing more than Greek mythology. But it goes clear back to the Garden of Eden, and another would-be Bible scholar who said to Eve, did God really say? That was the serpent, by the way. The old Diabolos himself. And it goes on today. The attacking the messengers, where the Israelites would attack the prophets in days of old. Pastors can get a little heat for things that they say. It isn't easy sharing with people what God's word says. The response, don't judge me. You guys are so judgmental. Especially in this day and age. But it doesn't really change with time. Nobody likes to be told what they're doing is wrong. Including preachers. You think people that reject God's word in the times that we have difficulty with it? And would we reject God's Son? The Son finally comes to the tenants of the vineyard, and he's killed and thrown out of the vineyard. How does that relate to us? Well, despising God's word and his gifts to us. It happens. We have about 100 people, members of this church. Our average attendance is around 50, which is good for a church. Usually run about a quarter or a third of the membership actually shows up on a given Sunday. Wanting to hear God's word and receives his word combined with the visible elements in his supper. We can be resentful of having to give back a portion of what we're given to God. It's a little uneasy when the offering plate gets passed. Giving God what is his due. And there was Judgment Day for these guys who tried to take over the vineyard, and really it was Israel. These religious leaders had their temple destroyed. 33 years later, after they got rid of Jesus, the Roman armies came in and not one stone was left standing on that temple. All the Jews were rounded up and taken out of Israel, sold into slavery. In fact, it was Jewish prisoners from the war there that built the Colosseum in Rome and provided entertainment once it was built. And it was money from the temple treasury, the brass and the gold and the copper and everything that was used to fund the Colosseum in Rome. The Jews weren't allowed to even look at the mountain on which the temple had been built. Or they'd be death by crucifixion if they even looked at the mountain on which the temple had been built. And for us, there's a judgment day coming, and it's an awful day for some. For others, it's a day of reward. For Christians, we look forward to Jesus coming again. When we're worshiping Him, serving Him and others, and living as disciples, it's a day to look forward to. Is coming again. Well, that guy who tried to take our homestead finally got what was coming to him. He wound up going to jail, other stuff. These knuckleheads will eventually do something and get caught. He got what was coming to him. And here, we miss the whole point in God's Word if we think it's talking about somebody else. We don't like the idea of God owning us, being slaves of Christ Jesus. Most of the translations translate it servant to soften it. We're bought and paid for. Property of God's. We have a debt of gratitude that we can never repay. And we also, like the Jews in Old Testament times, are rebellious. We don't like being told what to do. I don't like being told what to do. Here, Jesus died for us that we might inherit what isn't ours. And it's amazing, the good news of what Christ did for us. He died on the cross so we wouldn't have to die. He gives us an inheritance that goes beyond anything we can ever imagine. May we be faithful servants who give back to God what is His due. Our offerings of praise and thanksgiving, first fruits of all that He's given to us. May we give to Him our lives, serve Him and others in need. Amen. Now may the peace of God, which passes all human understanding, keep your hearts and your minds in Christ Jesus. Now you